From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. That's right, everybody. From the Middle, we are the smoothest, most dulcet podcast that you're going to find anywhere in the Midwest. We're here with episode number 153, being three middle-class guys living in the middle of America. Chapters of our lives with points of view that is somewhere in the middle. And if this is your first time joining us, we'd like to say howdy, welcome, and pull up a chair, put your hat on a hook, stay a while, listen to some laid back, casual, fun conversation as we talk about Mother's Day very briefly. Then we start getting into some stuff from the Middlers. We talk about some reactions to things and a fellow podcast who responded to a call of ours to check out a giant gas station, even bigger than Sheets. We go on and do some answers from the middle. We talked about Gold Belly. Dylan had another encounter with them. Did this one go better than the last? We shall see. Corey rode some bikes, and Corey is also into racing now, so that's a thing. Enjoy.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
All right, so I know Mother's Day we just had Mother's Day and it's all about moms and that's great, but I'm going to make it about myself for a minute. Do you ever get really excited about leftovers that you can formulate into a new thing later? Like we did that at Thanksgiving with like the leftovers and making like our turkey sandwiches. So we went to my in-laws, my wife's parents' house, and they had brunch. And after, because there's, of course, tons of food left over, they're just putting stuff in containers for us to take home. And so one of the things was a sheet pan omelet, and then they're putting candied bacon in like bags. So omelet, but baked in a sheet pan. So it's really thin. And then they put candied bacon in a bag, and then there's fresh croissants. And my brain is just getting real excited for the next day.
Sandwich.
And I made myself a beautiful breakfast sandwich this morning. I took a big hunk of sheet omelet and I cut a third off and I cut that in half and I moved it to the edges to make it kind of in the shape of a croissant. And then I laid the candied bacon on it. And then I put cheese on that. And I heated it up and the cheese melted over top of everything. And I took it right out of the microwave and I slid it right on the omelet that I cut in half. It was beautiful. So happy Mother's Day, everybody.
That is a beautiful Mother's Day story.
Beautiful. How was your Mother's Day? Did you guys get good leftovers?
Yeah. So on Friday, we went to my mom's house, and I cooked dinner for her to take over there. And of course, I made mashed potatoes, a copious amount of them. Bought a whole bag of potatoes and used them all except for one because I stole one for lunch. Had a little baked potato for lunch there, but outside of that one, made that much mashed potatoes. It was glorious, and I had leftover mashed potatoes. Finished them up today.
Nice. Your family's like, Kendall, there's 3 pots of mashed potatoes. I think we have enough. Like, just trust me. Just,
you know what? You would be
me.
surprised. I was surprised how a full bag of mashed potatoes, like I didn't even need to use the big pot. I could have gotten away with the medium-sized pot.
It's quite the restraint. I'm proud of you.
And then what about
No, yeah,
on Mother's Day? Yeah, what'd you do for Amy?
we haven't had Mother's Day yet for Amy. There's a long story. The weekend has been long and sleep deprived, and a
Sorry.
lot of us are kind of barely here right now. But she was in North Carolina with Lydia for a family thing that went on down there. So they just got back today. So
all in due time. Celebrate.
All in due time.
We had a lazy day here at the house, church first, and then gave Sherry a pressure washer because that's what she wanted.
All right.
And then like did some yard work, and yeah, so it was a nice relaxing time. I'm excited, speaking of food, Dylan, to follow up on a few of the topics we've covered in the last couple episodes. So we're always harping on our listeners to engage with us in some format or the other. You can text us, you can call us, you can leave voicemails, you can email, and you can reach out on social. So this answers from the middle segment that we started has garnered a few engagements. And so I wanted to follow up on two things. The first of which is a voicemail from a middler named Kennedy, who had some thoughts about Kendall's enthusiastic waving at strangers and whether or not that's a form of bullying. So here's that voicemail.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. This is Kennedy. I almost said my last name, probably not a good idea. I just thought I would say hello. Don't know if you're doing these voicemail things anymore, but I recently watched the episode I watched on YouTube. Watched the episode where Kendall's wife mission for advice on if what her husband does is bullying. I just wanted to let you know what our family does. We like to not only honk at random people, whether or not we know them, we like to wave and look in the opposite direction as we pass by them. Very funny. It's a funny reaction. I would consider that bullying, more or less. Maybe not as bad as Kendall, but I just thought I would give my input. So there it is.
Wow. So not only beeping and enthusiastically waving at people, but looking the opposite direction so that when they turn their head to look at you, you're looking elsewhere. What are your thoughts on this, Kendall?
Well, I've done that too. I've not done that one to strangers. I used to do that like in high school. We would do that to each other, that people that we knew. I feel like that one is possibly, I think it's more fun than what I do for sure. Certainly more creative. So good on you, Kennedy. And I don't know. I still don't think that either one is bullying per se. I think that bullying is a horrible thing. And I think that it's a real problem. I don't think that people honking and waving one direction or the other is what we need to be worried about. So,
okay. Well, thanks for the voicemail, Kennedy. Another listener went above and beyond and not only sent a voicemail, email, or whatever, filmed a video. So last week, Dylan was really excited about going to Sheetz convenience stores and the fancy technology they have for ordering food. So John from the Grab 'em in the Brisket podcast in Texas sent us a voicemail, but then said, hey, the next time I'm at this place called Buc-ee's that Corey referenced, I'll take a video. So I'm going to share my screen. We're not going to play the whole 5-minute video. Do go to one of our social media channels where he tagged us, and you can watch this entire video. Just going to skip around a bit. First, I want you to see the entrance.
For my friends from the middle and all their Midler fans, we're at the Buc-ee's. This is the one down in Texas City, Texas. Oh, there's Buc-ee. Heading into
okay, so just skipping around. Huge entrance.
You do the math. That's
It reminds me of like Kmart, how just the lights never ended, but way bigger. And John, thank you for the voicemail. Normally we would have played that, but you had this video ready so fast. The video is far, far greater. Just countless. He talks about beef jerky for a long time, which of course, and there's just walls of beef jerky.
They have ribeye, they have boudin, they have fudge. They make their own fudge in the store.
Well, they make their own
Incredible.
beef jerky in the store too, is what I think I heard him say before. And to double down on the beef jerky thing that amazes me is like they have like essentially picture the deli section at your grocery store, where you can go up to the butcher and be like, hey, I want that fresh sausage and give me 1.5 pounds of that ground pork right there. And imagine like that, only it's like 50 feet long. And it's
Mhm.
different kinds of jerky that you can buy by the pound.
Hot
I
nuts.
find that, like, does anybody else, when they see this kind of stuff, especially with the food, like, how is it possible that they're selling that much like fresh product? You know what I'm saying?
I
Yeah,
do.
the
That,
video
like-
shows all kinds of like prepared and pre-wrapped sandwiches. That is
Yeah.
so many sandwiches to sell.
Exactly. They have 4 icy machines. Like, those things need to get cleaned out sometime. Like how much of this stuff do they end up wasting? Or maybe they really are that popular that they just keep rifling through it. And
I don't know. It's an incredible amount of stuff. And that video was killer.
All right,
John.
I'm going to just play the end because there's a little nod to Dylan here in the last few seconds.
yes.
You don't even have to take nothing with you. You just stop at Buc-ee's, get everything you need. Start with their snack wall. These right here, kind of a must. If you go to Buc-ee's, they're beaver nuggets. And of course, they got something for your Mountain Dew hole.
Awesome. That is so great. Thank you,
Oh,
John.
John, you're the best.
Thank you, John, for sending that in. So those are replies to previous segments of Answers from the Middle. And I'm kind of going to surprise the two of you. I think I came up with a jingle for this segment.
Okay.
All right.
Can I,
let's do it.
can I
Let's
run
hear
it by you? Yeah, okay.
Let's hear it.
Of course.
What's the etiquette at restaurants for yourself and your kiddles? Ask for answers from the middle.
All right.
I was going to say funerals instead of restaurants, but that was a little grim. What?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Little
If
bit.
you really
Okay.
hate your neighbors, or perhaps it's just a little, ask for answers from the middle.
Ah,
Do
That's
you
so
need a solid
Oh, keep
reco
going.
on a guitar or a fiddle?
Oh,
Ask for answers from the middle.
I didn't know if these were different ideas or different verses. Were you pitching all of them?
I don't know.
I think so. Some of them are ones we've done. Some of them are what is that again?
Do you
It's-
need some
I'll
inspiration
keep
so
going.
that you can really whittle? Ask answers from the middle. Would you like to hear opinions on the flavor of green Skittles? Ask for answers from the middle.
I didn't know it was going to feel so old timey.
Yeah.
Our intro. We have such beautiful music from Samson
Oh man.
that just felt like a bit of a contrast, but I'm open to it. And I'm
Yeah,
here for it.
and my favorite part is that was the Tom Brady of jingles, man. It just didn't stop.
Yeah, just
Just when you thought it was over,
What-
man.
wouldn't end.
All right. Well, we'll keep
Leonardo
working on it.
DiCaprio, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
We'll keep
Well,
working.
speaking of answers from the middle, we've got a bunch, and some of these are long, so we can't do them all. But we're going to do a couple more this week. And by the way, if you like some of these answers from the middle, please submit your own questions with as many details as possible. You can direct message them to us on social media or email from the middle at protonmail.com, subject line answers from the middle, and we will likely include yours in the show. And if you really, really like them, go to our YouTube channel. We post all of them there into short little clip segments. Kendall does an awesome job, and you can share the questions with your friends. So without further ado, let me go ahead and read one. This is one that came in. And by the way, these are all anonymous. This is one that came in from email. If you're in a relationship with someone and you've yet to meet certain family members that are on social media, and they quote friend request you, do you accept a friend request before you meet them? Alternatively, is it okay to quote friend request them before you meet them? I'd love to know for casual and serious relationships, if different at all. So certain family members, you've not met them yet. Do you accept their friend request before you've met them? And is it okay to friend somebody else before you've met them, casual or serious relationships.
You're talking about family members and relatives of the person you're dating. Incoming and outbound.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's the etiquette? And does it even change by social media like platform? That's another layer that you could dive into if you wanted.
This all gets way more complicated than I think it ought to be. My first reaction, because it's not like I haven't had social media, I just don't care. And so like my answer is like, yeah, sure, why not? Go ahead. They send you a request. Okay. Like that's my answer. My answer is why wouldn't you? I don't get it. I don't understand why not.
Well, let's say, so I think if I'm reading this, I think there could be a certain level of uncomfortability. If you're the person maybe dating somebody and you're getting random friend requests from like people in their family you haven't met before you've even met them, you're now thinking about what's on your social media channel and profile and what you're posting with your significant other, like family you've not even met yet. There's no part of that that's even a little uncomfortable for you.
No, I guess I really don't understand. Maybe I just undervalue social media when it comes to such things.
Yeah. I struggle with this one too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I figure, because if you know, I figure if I know who the person is, then I probably, for me personally, know enough about them, because this sort of thing has happened to me before, and I didn't think about it much. I just said yeah, and then went about my day. Like,
well, maybe you don't really know them. So what do you do then?
If I don't know them, then I don't friend anybody that I don't know.
So it's just that easy. Like, oh, I've heard of that relative, even though I've never met him. I'll just hit yes.
Yeah. Or at least I've never personally had a situation where that hasn't been the case.
It's hard for me to put myself in these shoes because I didn't date during the days of social media. And if I did date, I was probably dating with the intention of like finding a serious relationship. So to casually date, I was never like one to participate in like hookup culture. So like, I'm thinking about if that's going on, that might be different because, you know, random friends or family members of theirs are reaching out to you. But I'm kind of with Kendall, like, and another reason it's hard for me to put myself in these shoes is because I don't have anything on my social media that I wouldn't want anybody, I would care that anybody sees, except maybe the things I say on this podcast and coworkers. So if somebody's going to friend request me, I'll just accept it. But I also don't think it matters all that much. Like, it's not changing your relationship with the person or the person you're dating all that much. You're just now friends on a social media platform, and you can unfollow and unsubscribe to them at any moment. So it's hard for me to think of a scenario where this would be a big deal. That's a better way of saying it.
I think there's another version. I think there's another version of this too, where you don't accept or decline. And then if they try to add you again, it's like your friend request is still out there. And so you know that they use the platform, but you've never said yes or no. And so I think the variables are maybe we don't have content that we're embarrassed of. Maybe, and frankly, we've probably all even got some family we don't even really want to be connected with on social media, let alone somebody else's family. So I'm thinking like you might not know if that's the crazy person in the other person's family yet that you want to even be connected with. I think there's a lot of variable. You almost have to ask the significant other, like, hey, so-and-so friended me on, social media. I guess the closer you are with them, the more likely they are to go, oh, maybe. Yeah, you can ignore that. Or
I feel like I have to ask some Gen Zers this question.
Maybe, because I agree. The more we talk about it, the more it sounds like middle school gossipy kind of stuff that I just like that I still am just like, why is this a thing?
Why does it matter? Yeah.
We're adults.
If anybody listening does have an opinion on this, feel free to let us know.
Yes, please.
Yes, because I'm willing to say that I just legitimately am not in the world nearly as seriously as a lot of other people are, and so I'm willing to say I don't know and I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right. So this is let's see. This is adjacent to that question, and we can gloss over this if you feel like it's too similar. What do you do about a friend request for a family member's significant other or people that you've just met? How long do you wait to add them on social media, if at all? As an example, my significant other has a cousin who just got married. I've met the cousin, but have not met their new spouse. Do I friend request the new spouse? My sibling and I have different family members that we are connected with on social media because there doesn't seem to be a clear consensus on who to add and who not to add. Another example might be a new friend that you met through a significant other, someone at work, or just out and about. So like this one is really extended family, kind of a similar question, but like really extended family, new friends that you've just met, friend of a friend. Is there any thought that goes into like, does it seem weird to add?
So the best example for us, Dylan, might be when our younger stepbrothers were dating. If their girlfriend friend requested us, I like, so that can be one layer. And then I really like the last part, which is someone you met at work or you were just out and about to friend request them. That's a really interesting, I think we could look at that lens. The rest of it feels similar to the first question.
Okay. Those came in together. So feel free to play with those as much as you want.
So I have friend requested ex-girlfriends of my stepbrothers, and I'm still friends with them on social media. But again, I had positive interactions with them the handful of times they came over to family get-togethers. It's interesting seeing their lives now. Some of them have gone on and gotten married. And it's just like, these were people my brother knew in his class, and I had a handful of interactions with them. The one, like coworkers, is a really interesting one to me because some people are really against that. And other people, the minute you get hired on, like I just got hired onto this team at Amazon. The minute I got hired on, some were reaching out on LinkedIn and social media. And I don't think that's weird, but I think others, if I did that, would think that was really weird. And it depends on the age of the coworker too. Like if they're a little older, to reach out to a coworker you just met who's like a little bit older and to like see pictures of the inside of their house and their family and like what they look like in their Saturday lounging clothes feels a little weird for some. And I can appreciate that. But my general rule is if they're reaching out to me, I'll accept it.
But the question is, would you give yourself a self-guided tour through their home? Okay. I think it's funny that you mentioned it because I think LinkedIn is different than like all the private social
100%. Totally agree.
As an example, anytime somebody new starts at my company that I work at, because it's still relatively small, if I see that they've done like a, hey, I just started working at tag company, I generally just add them. Like that's like we're going to be coworkers no matter how close or
100%.
not. It's so that one for me is different if the professional side of it comes up. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I've been at my company for almost 3 years, and I think I've added 0 people on Facebook, or I don't have Instagram. I don't have a private Instagram or Twitter, or I don't have TikTok or whatever. So it's pretty much you're catching me LinkedIn or Facebook. So like I've added 0 people from my company on, and there are probably people that I could easily friend request, but I've added none. And I don't know why. That's part of the question people are looking for.
I've been here 18 months, and I'd say between a third and half, we are friends on Facebook. Some came to me and some I reached out.
So what's the difference?
I guess I just make a judgment on how comfortable I think they would be with it based on our level of familiarity at work. Like, I might not call them bro, but I would reach
level.
out on social media. And I hate to say it, but their age does come into play. If they're like an older or more senior person, I probably wouldn't unless they initiated it. But I just typically just follow suit in that.
Do you think it's maybe similar ages that you've had like maybe more fun conversing with? Do you think that's like the easiest parameter? Like, people that you've not chatted with as much might add you and you didn't think to add them because you've not enjoyed conversations with them as much. That seems like the most basic like barrier for entry for wanting to add somebody. I work with this person. We have lots of good conversations. I'll go ahead and add them.
Yeah.
I think personality, I think, probably plays a lot into this as well. So like there's a lot of people, including myself, who are just introverted and are far less likely to be the first person to introduce themselves to someone else. Usually it's someone else spotting me and introducing themselves to me. And the same goes with requesting. Like, I'm far slower to request a friend than I am to accept a friend request.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the world I live in. And I mean, there are people who are on the other side of that coin. And people like me rely on those people to even have friends in the first place.
That's a good point.
So there's
another one.
So there's a question for you is, so when you started working at your job, were you the first one to send a request to somebody, or did you wait until people started? Well, you said it happened right away. People started sending you friend requests.
It was about 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah. I sent a handful.
No, I mean like friend request 0, like the one that started the ball rolling, that said to you, hey, it's okay for me to start asking these people to be my friends now. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, like there's a comfortable, there's like a waiting period. If it's too soon, it's weird.
At some point, it went from these people are not my friends on social media to, okay, the ball has started rolling. I can go ahead and start requesting now.
I don't know what that time frame is, but if I say to either of you, you start a new job, you meet some new cool person named Susan or Tom, and that night you go home and send them a friend request.
That's so
a little fast.
So weird. Well, that was going to be my own spin-off question based on this question, right? People who join clubs or organizations or a church. If like you visited a church and add the lead pastor and the associate pastor and the youth pastor and the worship leader, I'd be like, what's up with this person? It would just look suspect. Like, that's really fast to do that, to do something like that. Yeah. It's like the unspoken rule.
It's like, I'm following all y'all on TikTok. Keep the videos up. Similarly,
if you visit someplace or a church or an organization and the lead pastor friend requests you the next day, you're like, oh, I'm going to get a mug and some mail.
Well, yeah, but it's like, Pastor Jason Thomas dash church of whatever profile page. Like, it's not his private page. It's the page of him as a pastor and whatever. It's always that one. So clearly there's etiquette in here, because if I say you add people the same day you start a new job, you go, ooh. So there's something in there, but I think the answer is, if it's family or extended family or family of significant other, it probably doesn't matter. If it's new friends, people you just met at a golf tournament, at a restaurant, at a whatever, or work friends, there's probably some
considerations.
There's probably some considerations or a buffer period on that. Good. Fine. Okay, here, are we ready for another one?
Yeah, last one,
then we'll take a break. Text etiquette question. If you're trying to plan a get together with friends or family or some kind of social event, What's the longest you wait to follow up on an unanswered text if the person that has not replied has information you need? Understandably, sometimes people need to check with the significant other about a get together or social event. So is the polite thing to do at least reply and say, let me talk to my spouse and get back to you?
I do think that that's the polite thing to do. Inform the person why you're not responding right away. But even then, I would say, like, if it's if you're not going to respond within an hour, and that's the reason why, then I would say that it's that it warrants a courtesy of, hey, I'm gonna wait. I've got to wait till I get home from work or whatever. Or I can't get a hold of my wife or whatever.
So the first part of the question, what's the longest you wait to follow up on an unanswered text if that person has not replied and has information?
Yeah. I think that depends entirely on how eminent it is. So
Okay.
if it's
There's
like
an equation. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that there's a very simple one size fits all answer for this one.
Yeah.
For that one for me. So if it's like, if I'm trying to text my wife, for example, to find out like what kind of milk to buy at the grocery store, and I'm there staring at the milk aisle, I'm going to like text her, call her.
Yeah.
call her.
Yeah.
Until I get something, right?
Yeah. And that barrage is going to be expected because of the urgency of the milk.
Exactly. Because milk is extraordinarily important, and I'm not coming back to that corner of the store.
Right. Even though milk is in 4 places on 3 different end caps and in a whole section, you're like, no, I'm not going back to where all the milk is.
Oh, no. Any marketer will tell you the milk is in one place, and they make you crawl through the store to get to it. But if it's like, if I need to know what kind of milk to buy and I'm on the way to the store, I'll send a text message.
Okay.
And then, but I mean, it's not going to get followed up on until like sometime later while I'm shopping.
Yeah.
And it's even less eminent if it was like, if I texted her like 5 hours ago and I don't get a response yet. So
I have really, really strong feelings about this one. And I was smiling ear to ear when Dylan was reading it because I was feeling a little guilty because I sometimes do this to Dylan.
Great. Let's talk about it.
Because we might get into a fight because Dylan is usually a planner and he likes to know details very far in advance. He just likes to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when those queries come in, an example once was before Halloween, he texted about Christmas gifts for someone like, hey, what's the plan on all of us? And when that text comes in, I know this is not the healthiest attitude to have, but I get angry that he has the luxury of planning that far in advance. And so to punish him, I intentionally wait for a really long time because I'm like, I have 900 other things to worry about between now and when you're trying to plan for. How dare you text me about this right now? I don't know. I haven't even thought about what costumes I'm getting my kids for Halloween, let alone Christmas gift planning. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty there because this is one of those things where I feel like so many people relate to and nobody will admit it. Like so many people do really catty things, all of us included. We just never ever would be willing to like let people into the deepness, that dark of a place to let you know that, yeah, I saw the text message. I didn't respond because I felt like you needed to learn a lesson. Like nobody says that.
I'm mad at you. That
a lot of people have done it.
Oh, that's an extreme version. But I'm pretty sure that's happened before. But yeah, I think timing does come into play is the point. And I'm admitting that it's not the healthiest of attitudes. But sometimes those texts come in and it's not just from Dylan. And I roll my eyes and go, I don't know, man.
It's all good. Feels good to have my stuff together, though. So anyways, I didn't know if we had any more thoughts on that one.
You have to respond to that.
That was a wonderful response, actually.
So Kendall has an equation. Corey's, quote, too busy to have to think about anyone but himself.
Oh, that's gross. That's so gross.
No, it's a good question. I don't know. I think it does feel like it does feel like a bit of a moving target based on the urgency of the thing. So if you're talking about, in Corey's example, October requests for Christmas gifts, certainly weeks at minimum. I think you can reasonably wait days or weeks probably and wait to reply and say, hey, just checking in. Because like somebody's trying to be the planner. Some people aren't mentally there. I get it. Like, and I think we did do that like the first or second year of the pandemic because so much stuff was out of stock. I think it was like, we even realized kind of the absurdity of it, but like, hey, they're saying things might take like 4 to 6 weeks to be shipped. So like, if anyone has ideas, it doesn't make it less absurd, but I do think that was some of the logic. So I'll speak to that a little, but it does feel like the longer the timeline bar, it's like 10% into that amount of time is how long. There's got to be some kind of like, it's a ratio of like how long is the thing, and then you wait like about 10 to 25% of the way into that timeline, and that's probably when you follow up. So if that's 4 hours from now, you might wait 30 minutes to an hour to follow up, right? Like, hey, I need to know for dinner tonight.
Right.
Are you guys coming or are you not? It's in 4 hours. Wait, you text, you wait an hour and go, hey, didn't know if you saw my text. If it's like next weekend, probably a day or two. And you go, hey, we're just planning some stuff for next weekend. Got to get some food together. If it's 2 months later, it's probably 3 or 4 weeks. So it just feels like it's a certain fraction into the timeline that you need it in. Kendall's milk is urgent. So he needs to know about milk now.
This is the perfect plug for what we do and why we try to give centrist answers. It's often said the truth lies somewhere in the middle. The less catty, less passive aggressive thing for me to do in my example was to say, hey man, I'm not any more important or special, but my head isn't even there yet. I'll get back to you later. And then I can't be mad when you reply. And you also have to understand that it's not even Halloween.
Yeah.
COVID, I get it. Supply chain, blah, blah, blah. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. You're probably being a little far on one end of a spectrum. I'm probably being a little far on the other and dramatic. And
and Kendall's got milk. So that's where we are.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I think those were great. Those were some great questions.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. We've still got more. So I'm excited. We don't have to do more today, but keep them coming. Again, from the middle at protonmail.com. Send in. We'll keep it anonymous or direct message us on any social media channel. This feels like a great place to take a break, hear from some of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Richie.
I'm Little Matt.
And here in the 500 Section Lounge, we are three dads who host a family-friendly weekly podcast.
Yep, we laugh, we go on tangents, and we talk to great guests.
Tangents? I don't know what you're talking about with that. You know, there are gases leaking.
All right, okay.
Yeah, we have legendary conversations from sports to history and everything in between.
So be on the lookout for what we do next.
And always be there to
grab a listen.
So he's traveling down in his water speeder. And I told him, look, if you don't pull up right now, you're going to be directly underneath that shark's nipple. But he didn't listen. He just kept going. Next thing we know, the intercoms all turned white. We couldn't see a thing anymore from base, and he got beamed up and disappeared. And I was about to say I told you so until we all realized that that is how he's going to become Santa Claus.
I thought you were going to say the story ended with turns out you can milk a shark coming up underneath it. But anyways.
That's fun.
Hey, did I tell you that I tried Goldbelly again?
Oh, yeah. Where'd you get
Gave him another shot.
We did. Well, after the last debacle, we had a credit. So, but huge shout out to Meet Mitch, which is the name of a restaurant in Leawood, Kansas, because we had some delicious barbecue and there's still some in the freezer because we got a lot with our credit. And the barbecue sauce was so good. It was like I could have drank it. It was somewhere between barbecue sauce and ketchup and a delicious salty drink. And I really wanted to just spoon it out of the bottle and eat it that way. But I had to put it on the save some for the barbecue for the meat. And it was properly packed. It was a great experience. And for Mother's Day, I didn't mention this. I had Bree ship some stuff from a bakery in New York City, and it all came super well packed. And so maybe there's something to be said for shipping food across the country because we've now had 2 good experiences from New York and Kansas. So shout out to Meet Mitch and shout out to Magnolia Bakery in New York.
And you're 66% for positive experiences now with Goldbelly. That's so encouraging.
Yes. Well, the Magnolia wasn't Goldbelly, but 50-50 for Goldbelly.
Okay.
And Magnolia did a great job.
Yeah, that's still that's still a D or an F. So I mean,
yeah, I would consider it again. They even sent a cool sticker this time with the Goldbelly logo. Actually, here it is. So they sent a nice little Goldbelly sticker. Yeah, that was fun.
Adorable.
So there you go. So anyone who wanted to know and was keeping tabs, Goldbelly's 50-50 now.
All right, I'm gonna have to try that sometime. Get some pasties from the UP.
What?
Yeah, look it up. Pasties. From
What
the
are
UP.
pasties? Is that like what strippers wear?
I wish. They're like meat pastry things that you.
The gesture made it. This is why y'all need to be on YouTube.
You can't describe a food after that now and not have it be weird. You're gonna have to look up pasties from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Careful on the Google search there. Which device you're using and at what time of day.
Right.
Yeah, Meet Mitch. I feel like I need to clarify. MEAT Mitch, which is a play on them selling meat. But if you're trying to Google it, it's MEAT Mitch in Kansas. We had some delicious barbecue delivered. And so it was very good.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll be over shortly.
Great. I have a whole nother pound of it, and I did not drink all the barbecue sauce. So yeah, that was it. Now I'm sure the Grab 'em in the Brisket guys would have something as or more delicious. But for going totally off of knowing nothing and Goldbelly, it was totally worth it. It was great.
I'm curious for like how big the rivalries are they as perceived, like Kansas versus Texas style things versus Carolina style things?
It has to be.
Is there actual rivalry there? Is there animosity there, or is it just live and let live? Or how do people feel about that in the barbecue world?
Well, especially in the competition barbecue world, right? Like
we're just gonna have to have a mashup episode with the Grab 'em and the Brisket guys and
that's
ask
right.
all of these questions. We're just gonna need to do a mashup.
There it is.
So I did something interesting. You guys know the last couple of years, Greg Dillow, a friend of mine who's been on 2 episodes of this show, he and I have made a habit now of doing the Harley Davidson demo truck. And if you've not heard me talk about this before, Harley dealers can pay, I've heard, $5,000 to have Harley corporate send a semi full of all the new models of Harleys to their dealership so that people in that area can try out all the new models of Harley Davidson. We've done this. This is our third year. First year, fine. Second year was the year that the electric Harley Davidson came out. And this year was the year that the Harley Pan America came out. And I'm going to share my screen. It's like
nice.
It's like a dirt bike and a Harley had a baby. And it's like an adventure bike. So you can put these hard bags on the side of the seat for like long distance. And sort of the slogan for the Pan America is everything is a road. So it's really sort of, they're trying to go for that like off-road experience, obviously. And the white and blue one is the one that I got to ride. That was a really fun experience. No Cages Harley Davidson in Plain City did this, and we went on Saturday, the day before Mother's Day. It was rainy in the morning and cold, but the pavement dried up, and I got to ride I think like 8 or 9 new Harleys, and just for 5 hours. They just take you on a little route. Everyone does it different. Sometimes they just let you take the bikes out with no guides. Other times they have a guide in front, a guide in middle, and a guide in back, and you have to stay in a staggered line. You're not allowed to pass.
Yeah.
But depending on the dealership and depending on where it's located, they'll just say, here's your route, bring it back when you're done, and you can sort of go at your own pace. But I know other manufacturers do that. It's not just a Harley thing. So if you're at all interested, I invited James Taylor, who got his endorsement recently. He had his kids that weekend, so he wasn't able to attend. But it's just such a great experience because, as I've said before, the salesmen inside the dealership have really nothing to do with this demo experience. So you're not getting sold to. It's not high pressure. The guy with the semi and the guy that tours to do this, they know that people are just coming to ride and get a feel for each model of bike. And it's just a wonderful experience. They have food trucks and music. And there were probably 12 guides and only 8 people that were actually doing the riding. So like we had our pick, and it was just a really, really fun experience. So
awesome, dude.
Thanks, No Cages. And thanks, Greg, for going. And it was really fun.
Do you think if the charger, getting the charger installed, if it just magically showed up, do you think you'd be just as happy with an electric Harley as you would your current or another one of the more traditional Harleys?
I think I said this when I rode the Livewire last year. The range right now on the Livewire is 100 miles, and it's almost triple the price of a standard motorcycle. And so if the range goes up or the price comes down, I would love to have one. But right now of course, if you were going to say, I'm going to give you one, I'll just swap it out, even Stevens, I'd probably still take it. But to seek it out and purchase one for the type of riding I do, I probably wouldn't yet. The Pan Am is a gasoline engine. It's a standard engine. But yeah, super fun. It's a very different type of riding. Some guys are like classic Harley guys, and they want that loud sound, and they want to feel a little less refined and a little vibration. They want that. But yeah, these are very different bikes. But I think it's a wonderful idea. It's certainly an investment for the dealerships. But what a great thing to just let people, as much as they want, ride the stuff. And of course, every once in a while, one gets dropped or dinged or scratched, but that's part of the trade-off, right? But yeah, I love that these dealerships do that.
Well, it's funny. I was literally, we were watching through Long Way Round, Long Way Down, Long Way Up. I've mentioned the docuseries many times. The most recent one is Long Way Up. Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boardman are taking Harley electric bikes from the very southern tip of South America up to LA. I literally just finished it right before episode 1 or 1 or 2, 1 right before we recorded. And they were talking about how nice it was to be able to stop and talk to each other and you didn't have the rumble, so you could feel the road more intimately as you were driving. And they were talking about the benefits of the bike, and Harley was basically taking all this feedback from these two guys who are going to take these bikes on this trip, and we're implementing it all. And it's funny because the Pan Am looked like it had some of the upgrades. I was just looking at some of the, that's, if you're on YouTube, you can check it out. I was just looking at some of the mods that they made for Charlie and Ewan, and it looks like some of those things have continued into this Pan Am kind of adventure bike from a total amateur. Like an expert could look at it and be like, they're totally different. Here's a million reasons why. But it was just interesting watching them, take these prototypes and then take these like heavily customized by Harley adventure bikes with the big saddle packs on the back. And it's really interesting. And then you went to Harley in Wisconsin, didn't you, and saw one of the bikes that they used?
Yeah, they actually had Ewan's Livewire, his blue Livewire, the actual one that he used for that series at the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee. Before we move off of the Livewire, though, you see the huge battery here. Livewire spun off, and they are now their own company. Harley no longer has anything to do with it, to my knowledge.
Oh, wow.
It's assembled by Harley still, but you can see the logo. It's its own. They have spun off and become their own thing. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Greg told me that while we were at the demo truck, and I wasn't aware of that. So, but I do like that Harley's trying different stuff. It doesn't sound like a Harley. It looks like a really high center of gravity, but when you sit on it, it's like, it's crazy. It's like you're sitting on air because this whole back section from like the midpoint back just flexes based on how heavy you are to find. I was going over railroad tracks and not even noticing I was hitting bumps. It was incredible.
That's awesome.
Anyway, enough about that.
I wish I was that cool.
I am not. I just have to pretend to be.
Maybe someday.
What else is going on? I watched, you guys know I've been getting into Formula One. I've watched all 5 races so far this season. And this past weekend, they were in Miami for the first of 2 races in the US this year. And they built a track around Hard Rock Stadium where the Miami Dolphins play.
Wow.
And they had a whole area called the pier where they brought in boats and put the boats in like Caribbean ocean water colored like epoxy. So they're not sitting on water. And then they have sand in a cabana area for drinks. Then they had little pools where people were in their swimsuits drinking cabana drinks, watching the race up on a big screen while the actual cars drive around them.
It feels like every bad Sega Genesis racing video game design where there's like neon signs and pool parties right around a racetrack where cars are going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Either that or just Mario Kart.
Spot.
And they trained live dolphins to jump over the racetrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was really cool. Max Verstappen won and Ferrari came in second and third. But it was a really cool thing to watch. I don't know how. I'd be really interested to see a behind the scenes on how these tracks are constructed, because this was a parking lot and you have to build an FIA regulation Formula One racetrack that's 3.36 miles long in such a way that maximizes the available space you have, yet doesn't make it so dangerous for cars that are going 200 miles an hour. And you have to bring in all that asphalt and do it 18 months in advance. They just announced for next year, they're going to go down the strip in Las Vegas. In the 2023 season, they're doing an F1 race in Vegas. I'm like, they have to be planning now and doing construction now. Yeah. It's similar to what host cities do for the Olympics, right? You have to build these crazy mini infrastructures to host these things. But a lot of the dialogue from the announcers this past weekend was about how much Americans and the world is really taken to Formula One They're not specifically mentioning Drive to Survive on Netflix, but they have said in other interviews that that has had a massive amount to do with the rise of the popularity of the sport, that this Netflix documentary, now in its just 4th season, has gotten people who knew nothing about the sport to be hooked on it. So now you've got these like all of a sudden pop-up fans and people that have been fans for a long time in Miami and other places going up. They said when they were in Austin, because they normally have a big race in Austin, there was a huge contingent of Mexican fans that were coming up to Austin to watch until they're like, wow, we've got a lot of Mexican fans. We should do a race in Mexico. Right.
Mhm.
So it was just really cool to see. Dan Marino gave out one of the trophies at the end. Like,
Very cool.
it was neat to see a race in the US and for the US populace to really take to the sport. They weren't used to how hot it was, even though they race in certain parts of the Middle East. They're like, the humidity and the heat down here is doing different things to the track than we're used to.
Yeah. Florida, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a place where dinosaurs could live. So just to keep it in perspective.
Yeah.
Can I raise a noob question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you compare and contrast real quick Formula One versus IndyCar?
Yeah, I've looked this up like twice. So basically, in IndyCar, you have 2 main engine manufacturers, and all of the cars are pretty much the same, and they're basically not as fast. With F1, you can have any number of manufacturer. You have much more customization on the car that you're allowed to do, still under the guidelines, but there's a lot more you can do to customize your car so that it can look very different from the team next to you.
Okay.
Not to the untrained eye, but like different details on the aerodynamics and things that you want to do. And then they're just a lot faster in terms of like power and top speeds that they get up to. And it's a global race. It's a global sport where IndyCar is primarily US based. I think that's
okay. Fair enough. So they're very similar, except for like, because to the untrained eye, like I see Formula One racing, I'm like, oh, that's IndyCar.
Yeah.
And but like I obviously don't know enough about either to actually know that. It's just something I think to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been so fun to watch. And season 4 of the Netflix show is so good.
I was curious when you mentioned that they're not specifically talking about that documentary. However, with the rise of streaming apps, total available number of streaming apps, a handful of those, if you pay for access, you get a lot of things you wouldn't normally see on the channel. ESPN Plus being one, CBS Sports, NBC Sports, Fox Sports. And they have all these like sub things on that are like, you would never be on ESPN or ESPN2. I wonder if that's helping a lot of these sports that wouldn't normally be in prime time or featured at all, but you can hop on ESPN Plus or the Fox Sports app or NBC Sports app and see all these things that you wouldn't normally have access to. Because it's not like we haven't had cable and satellite to see alternative sports, but this is like a whole new level of quantity of things that you can watch if you just have a couple subscription apps that have sports on. That's got to be a huge contributing factor on top of things like documentaries that bring, some of these, second tier sports into the limelight. That's got to be a huge part of their success.
I think like at any point in time, like if you're feeling curious right now, it doesn't matter if it's showing right now. It's you have literally a menu in front of you.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference, I think. I think also could be product. So one of the things that possibly I'm interpreting about the differences between IndyCar and Formula One is that Canada has a football league, like an American Football League, right? But come on, it's not the NFL, right?
Right.
So somebody could ask that question: what's the difference between Canadian football and American football? Well, the Canadian Football League it's the same thing, but it's not the NFL. I wonder if the same could be true comparing IndyCar to Formula One. And if that's true, then like racing fans at the very least would be like, oh, I can watch Formula One now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. I was gonna say soccer too. Like European football fans would look at MLS and like scoff, right?
Right.
Because theirs is global, the competition is much more higher. Teams can work their way up and down tiers of championships versus everybody's even, there's just different cities kind of format like the US. I have to fact check myself. So they actually do get up to the same top speeds, but Formula One cars are meant for lots of corners and tight turns and like serpentine curves, whereas Indy cars will get those speeds on big oval tracks. And then one other, I was right about the two manufacturers, and Formula One teams make their own parts and can choose from like 4 or 5 different manufacturers, whereas IndyCar is just 2, Chevy and Honda. So yeah, super, super fun. I've really been enjoying it. I thought my excitement for the sport would have fizzled out by now, but I keep getting deeper into it and learning more about the drivers, and man, it's fun.
Let it happen.
Anyway, that's all I got.
I had a very boring week. Very busy.
Well, that's okay. Maybe this is just a good spot to say, go check out our friends over at artiusman.com, artiusman.com. Use promo code The Middle, save 25% off your first order, and get lots of friggin' cool stuff over there. They've got men's care products and candles and all kinds of sweet stuff. So definitely check him out. Anything else I'm missing, gentlemen?
I don't think so.
That's it.
Dylan's a hockey fan now. Look at that.
Who's a hockey fan?
Dylan is. Dilly.
Oh,
you
yeah.
You got a Kraken hat on.
I do have my Kraken hat. Yeah, I love it. It's super cool logo. Thank you, Corey, with all your trips to Seattle. See, you did buy a Christmas gift early. So turns out when you just stop and think about it for 30 seconds, it's not that hard. So I got this super cool. Since the Kraken came out, I thought this logo was like killer. And so I told you, if you go back to Seattle, you just got to let me know. And you FaceTimed me from a store that had literally 4.7 billion hat options. And you showed me around until I found one that I really liked.
Well, it was wonderful because it was going to get you that hat was the reason I ended up going up into the Space Needle.
Oh, awesome.
Because I was at the Amazon offices. I looked at the nearest Seattle Kraken official pro shop, or whatever you call it. And it was in this place called the Armory, which I knew nothing about, but my guess was it was like a mall type place. So I just tell the Uber to take me to the Armory, and the Armory is like 100 yards away from the base of the Space Needle. And I'm like, well, I might as well just go up since I'm here to get Dylan a hat. So it worked out.
Yeah. Don't even have to kind of be very thoughtful to pick out gifts that early in the year, it turns out. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Please send via DM or email your answers from the middle questions. We absolutely love getting to talk through them. Thanks for turning into this episode. Everyone have a great week.
Can we tease next week? We don't have to say who. No? Okay.
No.
Exciting stuff next week. Bye.
I don't want to jinx it. Bye.